If I had my way, everything would be so nice. This world would be like Paris. No, it would be a paradise. No one would ever have to say, I'm going to get my wish someday. All one would have to do is say, this is my order, if you may.
Welcome to another episode of The School Without Walls. I'm Dr. Antony Hobbs, host and founder of this educational program. My first guest today is not a former student, he's a present student of mine here at the University of Arkansas. I'm referring to him as Brother Jason Matthews. Today we are going to discuss a very, very important subject, long overdue, that is reparation for the African American. So what we're going to do today, Jason, is I'm going to have you to give what information you have. We're going to deal with why reparation, perhaps questions like why, when, and by whom. So what do you have to show us as far as why reparation is due for the African American and contrary to all Americans?
Well, first and foremost, reparations are due to the African American people simply because they were paid.
Look at me.
They were paid to all other people. The Jewish people were repaid for what was done to them. The Chinese was repaid to what was done to them, and so on and so forth. The Native Americans especially. Even up until this point, the Native Americans have received money.
And still receiving it, right?
Correct. They received land, and they received several monuments and several different things, monumentalizing what they have been through. And for me, that's one major key as to why we deserve reparations as a whole, simply because what happened, it took place on our own soil, and when it took place, it was legal. So the U.S. government should be completely held responsible for that, because there was legal action saying that could be done to us, and we had no way of defending ourselves. Another key point is that many institutions in America were founded on the backs of slaves.
You said many?
Many
Institutions, right?
Yes, sir, several.
And institutions, and you said institutions.
Correct, including
right.
colleges, more notably Ivy League colleges along the East Coast.
Right.
Harvard, for example. That university, the Mr. Isaac Royal, he owns a sugar company. He developed sugar and owned slaves. He endowed thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars into the Harvard Law School program, and his children went to that school. So that's just one example of as to how the legacy continues and how the money goes back into the schools, and that how they're getting their proper education, they're getting taken care of, and we aren't. New York Life Insurance Company, as an example, the largest life insurance company in the United States. 339 of their first 1,000 recipients were insured on the lives of slaves. So that's almost 400 people, black or African Americans, that were insured.
Let me stop you there and ask the question. This is some very good information, because I think one of the major problems we have as African Americans is not having knowledge of what you're talking about, not realizing the dimension in which our people have suffered.
Yes, sir.
And of course the law which indicates that should be repaid. But from what you were saying, it's not only the U.S. government that should be obligated to pay reparation, but there are companies. That's companies, that the wealth of these companies. And you mentioned two. Let's go back over that one. First one was that company that helped to establish that university. What was that? Go with that again.
Isaac Royal and Royal Sugar Company?
Yeah, that sugar company. That company became a very wealthy family, right?
Yes, sir.
Very wealthy family. And then they paid taxes into the government. So I think it's key when it comes to bargaining, which we must do. I'm hoping that we won't have to go through this industry demonstrating and acting that way in order to get what's just.
Correct.
But we have to bargain. We have to negotiate, as our president, President Trump, believes in negotiation. So you got a good point. So not only the U.S. government, but there are companies, multimillionaire companies, that owes reparation also, right?
Correct.
Excellent. Go ahead.
And many of those slave owners, the word bargain, I'm glad you said that because it brings out an excellent point. During the Emancipation Proclamation, of course, when they said certain slaves were freed, you know, those slave owners went back and was like, well, to the U.S. government, I'm losing money, I'm losing profit. How will I be able to sustain what I'm doing? Now it's like, you owe me money for my loss. So that's how the slave owners actually kept slaves and gained more profit off the U.S. government. So it's like it was almost like a cycle. We're saying we're helping them, but at the same time, if you play your cards right, you can help yourself. Especially if you had insurance on those slaves.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. We have 2 more sections. Time really flies. We have only 2 more minutes in this first half. What else do you have right there to close out this first half?
Well, just the fact that those slave owners and the government, it was almost like they were working hand in hand to build something. They knew what had to be done, but they knew who it took to make it done.
I see.
Which was the slaves.
The slaves, I see.
Who couldn't defend themselves.
That's amazing. Actually, the slaves had a lot to do with developing Washington, D.C., right? The city of Washington, D.C., and the capital, and so forth and so on.
Yes, sir.
Excelente. We're going to pause in just a few minutes, but what we want to say as we conclude this first third of this program, African Americans in the community who are listening, you have a responsibility to work toward your reparation for yourselves. It's not a thing that somebody is going to just up and give to you. You must first become aware and know that it is an international law where once we're going to define reparation right after the break. It's break time, I believe. We'll come back with the definition of reparation. Thank you.
In your new role, we help you help. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who once took care of you.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please, don't leave.
Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Those of you who have just joined us, I'm Dr. Anthony Hobbs, host and founder of this educational program called The School Without Walls. My guest today is Mr. Jason Matthews, who is a student here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and one of my Spanish students. At the end of the break, we were talking about the definition of reparation. What is your definition? Suppose somebody asks you, so what do you mean by reparation for African Americans? What is the definition?
Well, in my opinion, in a more modern term, a way that someone will be able to understand me, I would just say a reparation is a repayment. It's a, you know you messed up, and here's what I've done to fix it. It's a due diligence. It's what you owe. It's showing goodwill.
Okay, I like that definition. Say it one more time.
It's a due diligence saying what I did was wrong, and here's what I'm going to do to fix it.
Right, and that is so important as we embark upon the process of getting reparation. I'm praying and hoping that we have what I would call, quote, enough good white Christians to recognize that they have a responsibility to work with us toward that particular end.
Yes, sir.
And it will be done, because there's power in working together. And I also think I'm going to ask publicly for white Christian people to come on television and discuss reparation. We've got to be able to converse. It's something that's been kind of kept in the dark. Everybody knows about it now. So let's get out and do what we need to do in order to put this behind us. So do you have any notes on things that can be done to remedy this problem? For example, I think it was in 1970, I was with an international body of African Americans. There was 5,000 of us met in West Africa. And one of the main things on the agenda was discussing reparation.
Yes, sir.
And the question was raised, how can the persons who are responsible pay for such a debt? And Reverend Jesse Jackson was the person in charge of that meeting. And he said, we don't expect you to pay for that debt,
Yes,
but
sir.
show a gesture of regret, first of all, and pay what you can. So let's go into some of the various ways that the United States government, as well as those companies that have benefited from the labor of the African Americans, about
Correct.
300 and some years, could do this without just cash.
Well, easily the first way would be free education.
Free education, all right?
And if not even free, just extremely reduced so that it's affordable, so that people can
Okay.
afford to actually go.
Let's go back to free education, or at least reduced education.
Reduce affordable
now,
education.
where would you start when you say education? We have public education from K through 12. You mean beyond that, don't you?
Beyond, I mean,
'Cause we
starting
have
at
that now, don't we?
college, junior colleges, 4-year degree. If you want to go to a trade school, anything such in that nature, it should be affordable or free,
Okay,
because we were set behind for so long.
right. And that's a good point. In addition to what you're saying, it wouldn't cost a lot of money because we already have the educational institutions established, don't we?
They're already
We have
built.
the teachers already in place. What else do we have? And yeah, we have the builders, we have the teachers. So it wouldn't be a lot of money spent, but it'd be a great benefit. How would it benefit so many African Americans by having free education as far as the ability would carry them? How would it benefit them?
Because there's so many things that you don't learn unless you're in a learning environment.
Okay.
And once you enter a learning environment around people that have had success and who knows what it takes to get success, you learn from them and you start to pick up on their habits, in which it follows you everywhere you go, not just in the classroom. So you will know what to do when you go to AutoZone to get a new battery, or
Right.
when you're at Walmart exchanging conversation with a cashier. That starts in the school and at home, first and foremost.
Excellent, because I've personally experienced situations where I regretted that this person hadn't been trained how to treat the public.
Right.
Yeah, I like to share an example. Right here in Pine Bluff, I went by this fast food place, and the little lady was talking, and I couldn't hear what she was saying. She was talking into the mic, and she's talking real fast. So when I got to purchase my food, to pick up the food, then I finally got through to her. I'd say, who's the manager here? The lady said, I'm an assistant manager. I said, the young lady who was just took my order, I had difficulty hearing her because she was too close to the mic and talking too fast. In place of the lady thanking me, she went trying to argue the point that they had good mics and all that kind of stuff. So I had to go to the manager. The manager acted like the manager had been trained.
Correct.
She said, "Thank you so much, and we will act accordingly." That was a trained person.
Right.
The other person wasn't ready for the job. So she insulted a customer. And you don't do that, right?
Correct.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, we have just 1 minute. What else can we do as far as the reparation without going into a lot of cash money? We talked about education. Anything else?
Of course, you can healthcare.
Healthcare. So we're going to stop on that, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what we can bargain with as far as reparations without breaking the bank. Be back in a few minutes.
Hey, I'm Tyler Perry. Do you know what hunger in America looks like? Well, it has many faces, and 15 million of those belong to children. Yet billions of pounds of food go to waste each year, and this is unacceptable. You can be a part of the solution. Join us in supporting the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks, which rescues our surplus foods and provides meals to many families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org today. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
You feel it from the moment you enter our campus. It's a legacy of greatness. We are the Golden Lion family, committed to innovation and truth. We all come from different places, but now call the Pride Lands home. Whether it's the sciences, arts, or business, we're shaping the minds that one day will reshape the world. The University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Become a part of the Pride.
Those of you who just joined us, I'm Dr. Anthony Hobbs, host and founder of this educational program called The School Without Walls. My guest today is Mr. Jason Matthews, a student here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff and a Spanish student of mine. I said earlier on the other side of the break that we would talk about the second thing that we could do without a lot of money, but I want you made some notes. I'll make sure you say everything that you want to say, and then we will conclude with that. Okay.
Well, first and foremost, I have like a brief timeline. As we know, Jim Crow segregation laws came into play around 1965.
That's legally, right?
Correct.
Legal ended, okay.
Legally ended, correct. In June 1971, President Nixon declared the war on drugs, which ultimately targeted African Americans.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, if you go back to our rights, in the 13th Amendment, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to our jurisdiction. So what that's basically saying is slavery is still legal in the form of punishment. So now all we have to do is throw something out here to give these people a reason to be captivated. Give them every little chance you get to arrest somebody or to criminalize them, do so that we can legally turn them into our slaves. And that's legal by the U.S. Constitution, still standing to this day.
Well, that is powerful. Let me stop you right there. You might have this in your notes, but also I think we can transition right into police brutality, killing innocent black men and getting away with it. Couldn't that work?
Correct.
Yeah, because before we had any rights, the African American was killed on demand, if you say. But
yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
That's all I really had to say about that is basically the fact that it's still legal to enslave African Americans or really anybody as long as they're found guilty. So you don't have to have sustainable evidence as long as they're found guilty. And another thing that goes back to the Emancipation Proclamation, the 40 acres and a mule that most people did not receive.
Right.
But today, I found a piece of information that if we were able to get our 40 acres and a mule back, the money equivalent would be upwards to $6.4 trillion.
I see. Did you do any research on what, if we were to use land, that would be one of the reparational paybacks.
Correct.
How much land would we need today compared to the 40 acres 150 years ago? You know, that was a different value. 40 acres on a mule person can make a living on it.
Correct.
But he couldn't make a living today on 40 acres and a mule. So we needed to discuss that. What figure that you just, on the top of your head, how much land would we perhaps need now to make a decent living, you would think?
The way that everything has multiplied and amplified since then, I would roughly say at least 120.
120 acres.
Yes, sir.
At least 120 acres. That's a pretty good figure. And a tractor.
And a tractor.
You want, and the equipment that goes with it, right?
Correct.
Okay. You know what I just thought about? That could be done for those who desire farming. And of course, I would suggest that the federal government not put a penny in that. That'd be those various companies that benefited from it.
Because you know the government would come along and say, well, I invested such and such a so amount, so when your harvest comes, we should be able to receive this back.
Right.
But no, now it's going strictly directly to the families and passing it on down, creating their own.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Randy, we have about, what, about 3 more minutes. Let's go to the third one, is health.
Correct.
How could that benefit? How could the government pay reparation through health without costing a lot of money?
Well, healthcare is not expensive. They just make it expensive because it's supply and demand. Everyone needs it. So you have to put a way on there so that you can make some profit. You have to put a price on it.
Right.
There are many opportunities to open several other practices. You don't just have to have one main doctor's office that you have to go to. You can open private offices and private practices that charge lower discounted rates.
I think you need to go into law. You really handle yourself well.
And that way,
comprehensive health.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Right here in Jefferson County, right?
Right.
Is a good example, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's great. Now we have about 2 minutes to close this out, Jason. I'm certainly proud to have you. And what I want you to do is talk to other young people, because all movements, and that's what we need, is a movement comes with the young people.
Yes, sir.
The older folks give advice, give money, but they don't have the energy to do much more than that. So work it out, and I believe by the next presidential election, we will have that on our ticket. I believe we have a president who'll buy it. I have a lot of respect for President Donald Trump. He's a negotiator.
Correct.
And that's what we need. We need a negotiator rather than an agitator. Okay, you have the last few minutes.
I'm just thankful for the opportunity. You're a great teacher, great professor. I've learned a lot from you, and it's great to see that you care about us, so that we can reciprocate that energy and put it back off into the rest of the university.
Okay, I think we could stop on that. Keep the faith, okay?
Yes, sir.